Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys from down south. I want to say the Bienvenidos from Latin America and all across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and my good friends from Canada. You know we love you, Canada, but there's still no one we love more than them good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we're waiting for Big C to call in, but today is a beautiful August the 10th, 2017, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. A lot of good things happening in the world of sports. We have the PGA Championships at Quail Hollow Club down in Charlotte, North Carolina. That club is 7,600 yards, and it's a great course. Obviously, one of the biggest events out there coming up for someone to try to win the Grand Slam. I won't say his name right now because I know a lot of you already know who he is, but we'll talk about Mr. Spieth coming up. And then also the purse for that event is about $1.8 million, almost $2 million for the golfers down there in the Great Carolinas. Also, when you talk about some of the people in the world of golfing, Tiger Woods going into rehab. For what reason, I don't know. I'm not being insensitive, but he had a medical reaction to some, I guess, prescribed drugs he was taking. It wasn't like he was driving around and got a DUI, so I don't know why that's making so much noise about that situation, but he'll figure that out on his own, obviously, whether he has to do it or not. Some people say you go and do the rehab so you can get a job and have the DUI cleared off your record, but if he's worth nearly $100 million, why do you need to go into rehab? That's just my thought, and we'll get into a few more sports in just a moment. I do want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Also, another thing that came up in the world of sports that we'll get into also, waiting for Big C to call in, but Houston Nutt dismissed, his case was dropped by a judge in his lawsuit against the University of Mississippi. Now, we know obviously there were some calls made to an escort, or a call, I don't know if it was one or two, but there's some issues that went on that cost him his job. I don't really know if it's fair, because he's not the only one in the world that supports that industry. That's just my own opinion, being real honest about it. And I don't know what happened, but I do know that he did file a lawsuit and a judge threw it out. Sometimes if you know the right people, you can get the lawsuits to go through. If you don't know the right people, sometimes they will throw them out. Also, last night around the NFL, you have some Deshaun Watson, number one draft pick by the Houston Texans. Obviously had a great game last night in a loss to Carolina. Carolina looks good. McCaffrey obviously going to get a lot out of him. Didn't have a great game last night, but it's preseason, folks. We can't get too caught up in what happens in preseason. But Deshaun Watson looked really good. And I know my own opinion when it comes to playing guys in the NFL, why start a guy as a rookie when he can get maybe some playing time in practice? Let him wait 3 or 4 weeks watching real activity, and then you put him in the game, because you don't want to have a guy destroyed, a lot like what happens to a lot of players when they want to start them from week 1 in the NFL. It's a really tough gig to have, and a lot of guys find that out when they start playing. Also, the NFL looking to hire 17 full-time referees to go along with 124 total that they have, and right now that's a good thing. I think Troy Vincent, the VP of football operations, they want to do something that makes the game better. I think when you add the fact that the NFL is using the instant replay, and oftentimes they use it too many times, we all see on TV what happens if a player scored a touchdown, if he got a first down or not. I could understand having the instant replay for that, but having full-time officials, I think the league needs to understand that the fans don't really understand they're not full-time. A lot of these officials, they're part-time, they have other jobs. And to have a coach who's a part-time coach, I think you would have some inconsistencies. I think having the same thing when you have an officiating crew, if you have part-time guys, you're not going to get the same type of information. You want to make sure the game's called accurately. So I think Vince is doing a good job, along with the NFL, for bringing that to the forefront and giving some officials the right and the opportunity to do the whole thing full-time. And obviously it's going to make the game a lot better game. That's just my opinion. And also around the NFL, we have a couple of big games coming up tonight, if you can call preseason games big games, but we do have that coming up in the NFL. And obviously, everybody who's playing right now, most of these guys will not have a job as the season gets ready, and they got to start cutting guys before the opening season kickoff. So that's going to make a big difference too. Players are playing right now as hard as they'll probably ever play, because every week they're trying to cut players down on their roster. So that makes a big difference also. Big C Sports, also known as the number one sports show in the universe. We have our own network, Big C Sports Network, and we've been on so many different platforms over the years, but when you're growing your own thing, it's a good thing, and we look forward to that. I do want to touch a little bit on what's happening with Tiger Woods as we get into golf. I know that everyone's looking for Jordan Spieth to complete the Grand Slam, and if he can get this win in the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow in Charlotte, North Carolina, that started out today, then obviously he's looking good for completing that Grand Slam, a young player to do that. There have been several players in the history of golf that have done that. Of course, the great Tiger Woods. You got the great Jack. He did it. Gary Player did it. Ben Hogan and Gene Sarazen did it also. I think Spieth, obviously, he's kind of America's favorite. He's a young kid. He has a clean-cut image. Doesn't have a lot of the extra things going on outside of the golf course that some of the golfers may have that actually makes you great. You know, whether it's a Phil Mickelson, who has been known to visit some gambling rings down in Las Vegas, and then Tiger, how they've made his extramarital infidelities, and we didn't see him, there was no videotape, but obviously they all painted it in your mind as to what it looks like. And he can't be the only person in the history of sports, especially golf, that has been caught up in that, but they made it a big issue. So my issue is this. When you look at what happened with Tiger Woods, and obviously he has attorneys that will tell him to do what they feel he needs to do, and don't worry about what Charlton and Big C are saying. But if you look at most guys in the average mainstream population, if you have a DUI, and I've never had one, you can go through a counseling where you can have the case lessened. It won't go on your record if you do the deferment program, and he's going to go into it for 12 months. Now, I think the slippery slope for that is it was not a DUI, it was based on prescriptions. How many Americans in the United States right now have some type of prescription prescribed by their doctor? There are millions of people who have a prescription prescribed by their doctors, and they got to make sure that when they have that, you can't drive on certain prescriptions. I know that. It's happened to me at times on taking certain medications throughout time. It says in the fine print that sometimes you can't see when you get as old as I am. Your eyes can't see as well. It says, do not drive a motor vehicle. You may be impaired. Your vision may be impaired. So obviously that's something that Tiger Woods had to deal with. Now, I don't know why he would go into a rehab for 12 months, because if you look at all the golfers, most of them have some type of medication, whether it's to deal with pain. It could be something prescribed that doctors give you that's a little bit stronger than what they give you over the counter. But again, obviously that's up to him and the people that are running him in his organization. So make sure the Tiger Woods foundations are strong. They're going to have the media said that he's going to go through a rehab process. I don't think that's good for him right now. No matter what he does, there are going to be people who love Tiger Woods, and there are going to be people who hate Tiger Woods. But he has to continue playing the game of golf. If he can do that at a high enough level, I think obviously that he'll come back around and do some things for the world of golf that people want to see, whether he's on top of the world again or not. I think that's something that the whole world's looking forward to. They want to see, can Tiger Woods come back? Ironically, when you look at Spieth trying to win the Grand Slam, and you have a lot of other golfers out there that are saying they're ready to start winning, they're still find a way to bring Tiger Woods into the storylines of golf, because he does sell tickets. Even if he's not there, people are paying attention to what Tiger Woods is up to. I also want to look at another great golfer by the name of Jason Day, and he's ready to turn things around, and he's trying to do what Spieth has done, which has become a media darling. Now, after posting no wins and only 2 top 10 finishes this year, Jason Day is someone who's in position to play really good golf. He had a swagger about him, and he's motivated to return. I think if you listen to his own words, he's a little bit angry now. He's looking forward to playing and trying to beat those guys. And that's something that golfers tend to have, this image that they're all friends and that they all get along and they all want to hang out with each other when they're not on the golf course. But these players, just like anybody else, and Tiger Woods, I think, is more known for it. They want to win no matter who they're playing. They want to be the number 1 golfer in the world, and I think that's what Jason Day wants to get there. It's going to be hard when he has a lot of good golfers, on the tour right now that he has to compete against. But I like seeing young guys come on and play strong. I like a guy like Day that can play, and so obviously you wish him the best. when you also look at people who can challenge, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, obviously not an American kid, but he's someone who really hasn't lived up to his reputation. He was someone that was going to be the next guy to challenge Tiger Woods, and it never happened. Even though you look at Rory McIlroy, he's a great golfer, and he has a lot of experience behind him, he still hasn't lived up to the billing of being the next guy to challenge Tiger Woods. And then you look at the world #1 golfer right now, Dustin Johnson, who was hurt and injured. I guess he fell down some stairs for the Masters and wasn't able to get out to the golf course. Some people say maybe he had a little too much moonshine down in the South. You know the way they do it down South. But obviously you want to see golfers healthy, and I hope that for golf's sake, that if we get someone like a Spieth to win the Grand Slam, it really gives golf that boost in the arm that it needs, at least with the fan base, because it's still not the same game without Tiger Woods and without Phil Mickelson on top. So hopefully Dustin Johnson can play well. You have Hideki Matsuyama, he's a good golfer as well, not out of the United States, but someone who's at the top of his golf game. And again, it just goes to show, I would probably take a bet and say that most of these guys have some type of pain medication they deal with after going 72 holes over the course of 4 days, from back to hip issues. A lot of people have issues. Not making any excuses for Tiger Woods. He's a grown man. He can make excuses for himself, or he can make his own explanations for whatever he's gone through. But I just think that they don't let the issue go by trying to say something's wrong with Tiger for him to be in a diversion program. And because of the way the law is structured, he's entered that program that will allow him to have his record wiped clean of a recent DUI. But he was driving under the influence of medication, but a lot of people assume a DUI is alcohol related, and it was not alcohol related. So obviously he's going into a clinic again. He's been in that for other issues that a lot of men would be proud of going into, and I won't get too much into that, but almost every tournament and sporting event you see Viagra and Cialis, but when you use it too much, they say you have an addiction. So, that gets in the eye of the beholder. But either way, I hope that Spieth can have a good tournament. It would be great to see another player get the Grand Slam, just because I think it's another shot in the arm for golf. And if we can have that happen to him, I think it would be a good thing. A lot of people don't want to see Tiger Woods come back on the golf circuit because of whatever their reasons are. But I think the golf community as a whole would love to see Tiger come back and play this great game of golf that we all love. It's just not the same thing as watching the NFL or the NBA or even Major League Baseball for that matter. But we do want to see Tiger Woods get back out there on the links, and I hope that he gets healthy. No matter what you're going through, you got to have that where golfers and athletes are healthy. And my purpose as a Big C Sports host, I want to make sure that all athletes have access to the proper care and insurance. And we want to make sure that happens. And so if that can happen for Tiger, it can happen for anybody. It's just he has to know that anything he does is going to be in the spotlight, and it's going to be worldwide on every media outlet seeing what he needs to do or should not do anymore, because obviously when you're on top, sometimes the world does want to see you fall. I'm not saying that's the case all the time, but it seems to be in the United States of America. We build up our heroes to tear them down. I don't think that's the best thing for athletes, but obviously that's part of it. And even on our sports talk show, it's called Real Sports Talk. It's real talk because we want to make sure that everybody gets at least our opinion on what goes on in the world of sports. And as we look into that, I just want to wish Tiger the best, and I want to wish all the golfers and the people who love golf over this weekend a great swing of the golf club, and hopefully in Carolina the weather will be great and we'll have some great golf to look forward to. Also around the world of sports, I do want to bring up a point that, and I know maybe some people are tired of talking about it, but I'm not tired of talking about it. I know Spike Lee's called for a march on the NFL headquarters coming up on August the 23rd. Not too far off from the McGregor and Mayweather fight. But obviously, the thing that I have to say about Kaepernick, and I've heard some other media brethren saying that he doesn't trust a lot of people, and I don't blame him. There are a lot of times when people say you need to say what's on your mind, come out and speak for yourself. But at the same time, no matter what he does, he can't be right. There's going to be someone who always takes the opposite side. And when you think of taking the opposite side, I want to say that I have empathy for what Colin Kaepernick is going through, because as an African-American male, there's nothing more important than being safe in this society for every person. But historically, and you can Google this, Black men have been the most targeted by the criminal justice system since slavery, the abolition of slavery, and also Jim Crow. The criminal justice system is rife, and it seems to be too overrepresented by African Americans for whatever reason, doing the same things that the mainstream society does. So I hope that his message rings loud and clear to people who can at least look at his heart and realize what he's doing is good for all people, not just African Americans, but primarily, we have been the target of the criminal justice system, and all you have to do is Google the Kerner Commission. I wish more people would do that as they come up with this issue about what he stood or did not stand for, not standing for the national anthem. I do want to juxtapose that with Kaepernick and a lot of other people who feel about what they feel about Kaepernick, whether it's right or wrong, and if he should be allowed to play for a team. I think obviously he should. But I'm here in the Bay Area, Northern California. I got to bring this up because it may not be national news the way it is out here on the West Coast. And before I get into it, I just want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation for this billion-dollar industry. And for every sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They cover your pro athletes, your college athletes, your high school players, even your mom and pop soccer leagues. When you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. But I want to get back to this issue of Kaepernick and the great Spike Lee, who's calling for just a meeting, I guess a march to the NFL headquarters. There's a player for the San Francisco 49ers that has been released from the team, obviously, when the incident happened. And his name, obviously, everyone knows about it. I'll just call him Brock. He's released by the 49ers because in April 6th, he was involved in an incident with his ex-girlfriend. She's 31 years old, down in Santa Clara County near the new stadium. Now, Brock was dismissed because of the allegations. Now keep that in mind, allegations had him dismissed from the team, and of course we all are anti-domestic violence. We mentioned it on every sports program that we do with Big C Sports. I gotta bring this up though. These charges were thrown out because there was not enough evidence, and the girlfriend decided to opt out of the charge. Now this is information all over the local newspapers in Northern California. The Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office, in June, they accused Brock, he's 28 years old, of punching a woman in the face and attempting to strangle her on different occasions. Now, no woman should have to put up with that garbage. So I'm just questioning the fact, why was it thrown out? And obviously, his attorney, a San Carlos-based attorney, his name is Josh Bentley, he wrote a text saying the entire case was dismissed during a preliminary examination hearing on Tuesday afternoon. Now, this is going on through all the people saying they don't want Kaepernick to have a job because he didn't stand for the national anthem. More importantly, he stood to bring attention to Black Lives Matter, which a lot of people they pushed back on that and made it about the troops. It was never about the troops. But keep in mind, this story of a man who was accused of battering a woman, even though they let him go from the 49ers, okay, during the same time, even after that, his attorney, San Carlos base, which is San Francisco Bay Area, Josh Bentley wrote that there are several teams that have inquired about the services of Brock since Tuesday's dismissal of the case. Now, here's a guy, again, domestic violence versus someone who did not stand for the national anthem because he wanted to bring attention to Black Lives Matter. And there are at least 4 NFL football teams, if you believe his attorney, that are looking to hire him, to bring him on to play defense in the NFL because they think he has the talent to play the game. None of them said they're going to have their fans pray about it. None of them said they're going to ask their teammates to pray about it. None of them said that. They inquired immediately once the charges were dismissed against Brock to see if his services would be made available for other NFL teams. Now, obviously, this is an issue that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but as I always say on Big C Sports, if you're real, if you just tell the facts, people will disseminate the information and do what they want to do with it, because the facts matter. And if you tell the truth, it should not matter what other people think. You're not going to get everyone to like you. That's a fact. But for Brock to say that he, number one, he denies the allegation, and I think that's important too, even though the law enforcement in Santa Clara County, they sought to arrest him. Okay, he denied the allegations back when it happened on April 6th. He denied it. Now, can you say he's vindicated because the charges have been dropped because his ex-girlfriend, she refused to cooperate during the preliminary hearing? We don't know, because sometimes women, they cooperate because they're still afraid for their lives and their safety, because let's be honest, a lot of the times law enforcement does protect these women, and they may be in a situation where they feel they need the money, so they'll put up with the garbage and hang around. I don't know if that's the case or not. What I do know, and you can Google this if you're a sports fan, there's still teams that are willing to give him a job based on his ability to play. He may have stood for the national anthem, I don't know, but the issue of him battering a woman, or even accused of battering a woman, is not something that was held against Brock. So obviously, if you have that situation, and we'll get Big C in a moment here, if you have that situation where someone's accused of battery, it's never a good thing, because the athletes, obviously, when that happens to them, they can't really defend themselves. When they say, hey, I didn't do it, a lot of people say, well, you're hot, you're lying, or you're not being truthful. And Big C, we're getting you on right now, getting your microphone set up. Just make sure your volume's up. We're talking about Brock that was dismissed by the 49ers after an April 6th allegation that he had battered his girlfriend in Santa Clara County, and his attorney, also out of the Bay Area, you know, they released him. Okay, they dropped the charges, saying there's not enough evidence during the preliminary hearings. That same attorney has got 4 NFL football teams to inquire about his services, Big C. In the same time, Kaepernick, who never struck anybody, can't get a job. Your thoughts on that development in San Francisco, Big C? Your thoughts? Go right ahead, Big C. We're just trying to get your microphone set up again. We're talking about the charges that were dismissed against the 49er player. I think we have your microphone set up now, but he was getting calls per his attorney by NFL teams saying they want his services. Kaepernick can't get one yet. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's always been an early rush to judge the athletes.
Yeah.
Especially now. You know, we saw with the white-haired kid in Dallas.
Yeah.
Where he was released after an alleged situation where he potentially had shoplifted.
Yeah.
Yet there's more heinous incidents that has occurred in Dallas.
Yeah.
With players down there that are still on the roster, still getting paid by Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Because they have felony offenses. You know, when you look at athletes, they also look at it as cash pits, Charlton.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the first thing they looked at. People say, okay, if I sue them, I'm going to make some money.
Yeah.
But then you come find out that you don't have enough evidence to sue anybody, so the case ends up getting dismissed.
Yeah.
But the athlete's life is smeared and harmed from that point on.
Yeah.
When we look at it from the general public, because there's always going to be a speculation. Did he do this?
Yeah.
It's easy to accuse somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, private citizens get accused all the time. It goes under the radar. It doesn't make the media.
Yeah.
But the media sits around wanting something, being hungry about an athlete, you know, allegedly having done something.
Yeah.
And so when we sit around and see that from a societal perspective, you know, it's like the scenario that goes on in the White House right now.
Yeah.
Every day, you know, there's something new that comes up. It's easy for him to deflect things because he can bring up another subject.
Yeah.
And the media is like throwing a dog a bone because they're starting to chase it.
Yeah.
But they still come back. You know, it's like the dog brings that ball. If you throw a ball out to a dog, the dog brings it back.
Yeah.
And that's what Donald Trump keeps doing. He keeps throwing balls out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the dog keeps bringing it right back to where the ball came from.
Yeah.
That's the media, but it doesn't happen that way with an athlete.
That's
An
right.
athlete says, well, I didn't do this. I'm innocent.
Yeah.
And you will see over time that I'm exonerated.
Yes.
Well, he may get exonerated in the court of law, Charlton, but it doesn't get exonerated in the court of public opinion because it always hangs out. And really, you know, really the minority athletes have it
Yeah.
even worse, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because general public, you know, that's how those guys are. You know, that's what you expect from them. You know, we can go back to Joe Mixon, okay?
Yeah.
Back at the University of Oklahoma, before he was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. But he was a young man that had an incident occur when he was 18 years old.
Yep.
He was attacked. He fought back. He defended himself. He became the criminal
Yeah.
in this whole thing.
Yeah.
In the court of public opinion. They were saying, well, it's acceptable because you're a black athlete to be attacked by a white woman. It's okay.
Yeah.
She can do whatever she wants to you. But if you defend yourself, then all of a sudden you become a criminal. How is that, Johnson? Tiger Woods, he was attacked
Yeah.
by a woman, a white woman.
Yeah.
He became a criminal in the court of public opinion.
Yep.
You know, all these endeavors, when you look at how they're laid out, Johnson, it's laid out one-sided. I mean, there's more white athletes that do crimes to white women than there are black athletes, Johnson.
Every 20 seconds, a woman's battered, and there are not that many black men in the country to have it come from one group, Big C.
Josh Brown, Charlton, look how long he beat his wife.
Yeah.
The kicker for the New York Giants. The Mayor family said, that's okay, he's white. We want to keep this under the rug. We keep this in the house. It's no big deal him beating up his wife over 20 times and the police being called in.
Yeah.
We got enough money to squash this.
Yeah.
Keep this quiet because he's a good kicker for us. This is the mindset and the mentality of different sectors of society. As long as one side is doing it, it's not heinous.
Yeah.
It's just what Donald Trump said by grabbing a woman in the crotch. It's just boys being boys.
It's just boys being boys. And we know that's not the case because a lot of men just don't do that. In fact, if you do that to a lot of people's family members, you have a beat down coming, Big C. Big C, I do want to ask you, I know we're waiting for you to get on the program. Did you find Julio Jones' earring in the bottom of that lake, Big C? Your thoughts?
Anybody hungry when you know you got 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And I don't mean cocaine, but
yeah.
Julio, he's doing all right. He's got a little penny pinching reward out there.
Yeah.
Whoever finds it is not turning it in to Julio.
Yeah, that's funny. That the fact that they even put that in the media, I lost $150,000 ring. I'm gonna have a reward of $5,000 for whoever finds it, Big C. Obviously, somebody's sipping a little bit too much moonshine down south, Big C. But we were talking about some things too. Obviously, we have this thing with Kaepernick, and there's a former football player that played for the Cleveland Browns, drafted back in 1959, I think it's Wooten, and obviously he blocked for Jim Brown, and he obviously would want to see, John Wooten is his name, he likes the Kaepernick stance, and was trying to get some efforts behind it just from here from other media outlets. But I got to bring this up too, and I'm not trying to throw dirt on anybody, Big C, but everybody has some dirt on them. Everybody has something in their closet. But at the same time, I'm kind of fed up with the fact they're making it seem like Kaepernick has to say something because no one knows what he thinks. He's already seen himself be slandered by media. Number one, this garbage about not standing for the troops. Why in the hell would he come out and give you any story when most of the media are liars and sycophants anyway, Big C? Your thoughts?
Also, whatever Colin Kaepernick would say would be twisted.
Yep.
They say he needs to make a statement about him wanting to play football and how his stance going to be, concerning the flag.
Yeah.
He's already sent out a statement through his spokesperson of what he would do if he was allowed to be signed by an NFL franchise.
Donald Trump did that. Yeah.
Jay Cutler came out and said, hey, it's just football. I don't have to be in shape. I'm getting $10 million.
Yeah.
So, I'm carefree. I didn't care when I was a starter. I don't care that you gave me $10 million to stand in on the clipboard.
Yeah.
Now think about if Colin Kaepernick said that, came in and said, well, hey, it's just football. I don't have to be in shape. I
Yeah.
just go out there and do what I do.
Yeah.
And Jay Cutler was just looked at in a laughable manner.
Isn't that something?
Everybody figures he doesn't have the sense to understand the position that he plays.
Yeah.
But, to ask these scenarios about Colin Kaepernick, and you spoke about John Wooden. John Wooden was the individual who brought together all of the athletes to back Muhammad Ali back in 1960 in Cleveland, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that famous photo was Alcindor and Russell and, Jim Brown and Ali and many other African-American athletes that are there. And John Wooden was originally drafted by the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And he was one of the fastest linemen in pro football. And he was traded for 3 players to the Cleveland Browns to be able to block for Jim Brown because the Browns had no guard fast enough to pull for John Wooden. John Wooden is the president of the NFL chapter in the South of the Alumni Association. He lived down in the Atlanta area.
Yeah.
Tremendous man. Talked to him on many occasions, Charlton.
Were you guys out there looking for Julio Jones' earring? That's the news I want to hear, Big C. Did you and Wooden find the earring?
Well, John, you don't want to get John in the water. He really wants somebody to need all
okay.
That's out of the question. So, when you look at this scenario with Kaepernick, Charlton, and it's not going to go. The reason why it doesn't go away because the media knows that they were wrong on the way that they pictured Kaepernick.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find a way to be polite in saying that, so they keep running the story. You think about all the other players who have not been signed by free agency in the NFL that training camp is going. No one is crying for them, Charlton. There's many other players that want to be in that position of being in training camp.
Yeah.
But the media made such a mockery of what they did in talking about Colin Kaepernick. president.
Yeah.
I lie every day, but I'm not going to tell you that.
Well, you know the FBI. You know the FBI. I guess they invaded.
They went into Manafort's, apartment.
Yeah, that was Donald Trump's media guy, wasn't it? He ran his campaign.
That was his number one guy. That was his number one media guy. And Manafort, and then the president, come on, I can't figure out why they were going to his place. We haven't colluded with Russia, even though Russia had, $27 million.
Yeah.
That's not collusion. That's not working with Russia. That's working for Russia.
That's a.
And you think about this, Charlton. You look at what the president does, Charlton. We hear about North Korea every day and all these threats that he has towards North Korea.
Yeah.
All right? Putin came out today and said he's going to kick out hundreds of U.S. diplomatic employees out of Russia.
Wow.
Donald Trump praised him for that.
What?
He said, okay, if you get all these people that are involved in Secret Service and government security out of Russia that are Americans, that are American employees, well, that'll help us cut our budget.
Wow.
Cut our budget, but he's praising Putin for kicking out Americans out of Russia like President Obama kicked the Russians out of America.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he goes on television also and lies and talks about how he's upgraded the nuclear arsenal in America.
Yeah.
Okay, he said in 6 months of presidency is that he's upgraded the nuclear arsenal like you could just go out to Walmart and pick up a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, that's his mindset. So when we talk about the stupidity and ignorance, and I'm honest about this, stupidity and ignorance of this president, President Obama implemented a scenario to upgrade the nuclear arsenal in America, and he did this several years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still in the works. And when you think about what it takes to change a nuclear warhead, even deal with one of those missiles, Charlton, it is not an easy
It's not
task.
an easy thing.
And also, Congress has to be involved in what occurs. Congress was involved with what President Obama did because they knew what he was doing was, in the good of the nation. So that was one of the things they agreed with him upon.
And Big C, also, I'm sure that Donald Trump cannot say that the FBI is fake news now. Does he call it a fake investigation? Is that what he's still calling it, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, he came out and also said he had no plans on firing Robert Mueller because he can't.
Yeah, he can't.
If he was to fire Robert Mueller, he would immediately be impeached because and he also came out today, Charlton, said that Mitch McConnell should quit.
Yeah. He's right about that.
He was right about that. But that just lets you know how split the Republican Party is. When he attacked Mitch McConnell, he basically, started the clock ticking on that he won't be around long because this is a guy who has a lot of clout in Washington. He thought by hiring Mitch McConnell's wife, giving her the transportation secretary job in his cabinet, that would secure anything he needed with Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Okay, I got your wife working for me. So well, going to do whatever I say.
Well,
and it's not the case. McConnell's a good old boy from Kentucky.
Yeah.
So he doesn't succumb to those northerners real quick. You're redneck, you're redneck.
Yeah.
And I'm not being facetious about that. Everybody knows that when you look at it, even your kids, his neck between all his kids slapping down.
Well, they have their own issues down there in the way they live down south. Obviously, things will get ferreted out in the White House. We want to make sure that everybody just stays aware. Just Google what's going on in the White House. Don't just watch the score. But Big C, I know we opened up when you were down there looking for that fish. You and Wooten, we talked about some things going on, the PGA Championship. You look at Spieth trying to go for the Grand Slam. Talked a little about why is Tiger doing rehab when it's a DUI. He doesn't need a clean record to get a job. It was driving under the influence of medication. Almost every American in the United States has some form of medication that could have been charged with the same thing. I think it's a shame they're making him go through rehab for something that's medically prescribed.
You're saying I can't drive anymore.
Yeah, I mean, how many people would have to do that? But who do you know that's not on medication, Big C? So I think that's a bad move on his to go to rehab for that. That's just something you work out with your doctor and go on and live a better day. But coming to the close of today's program, Big C, we talked about so many things in sports. I want to get your thoughts on Deshaun Watson last night, Houston against Carolina, and also McCaffrey and how they impressed you or did not impress you in their debut in the preseason. Big C, your thoughts?
I look at both of these players, Charles. McCaffrey is so multifaceted.
Yeah.
As the season goes on and he gets up to date with the speed of the game and you got more starters playing in the lineup with him, he's going to be that multi-dimensional player for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
He does so much. He reminds me of a former player who came out of Stanford Charlton years ago. You're probably a baby. His name was Darren Nelson.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a little running back that came out of Stanford, played with the Minnesota
I remember him.
Who was multifaceted and could do so many things. This is what McCaffrey reminds me of him. Stanford has had a history of producing backs like that. But I look at Deshaun Watson, Johnson. He showed me all the mechanics and maturity of potentially being a good NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
Because he could spin the football. He was undaunted by the pressure.
Yeah.
He moved around. He ran when he had to. He knew how to get down, Charlton, to save his body.
Yeah.
This was just his first game. Now, he was in the lineup with the second and third string players.
Yeah.
Get him in with the number ones. You know, and we may see that probably the third preseason game, and he'll start that game, Charlton.
Yeah.
But once you put him with the number ones, you're going to see a whole new dynamic system in Houston. This kid is poised and ready for stardom, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I think that's a very good point. They both look pretty decent to me. Obviously, McCaffrey didn't have a lot of yards, but it is preseason. But I'm so impressed with the way Watson played. I think he's going to be a star. Even though I think he's going to be a star, I would still like to see him keep him out for the first 2 or 3 games just to see what's going on the sideline with the head coaching staff there. And I think he's just going to be a lightning rod of a quarterback for Houston. It might even get them to, of course, into the playoffs, but they'll probably win their division as well. Big C, we've talked about so many things in sports with the tournament going on at Quail Hollow in North Carolina. Have you ever been to that course, Big C? Your thoughts?
Oh, yes, I have, Charlton. You know, I've hit a lot of nice golf courses around the country.
Free?
When you get a chance to play on courses that the PGA has been played on, Charlton,
yeah.
You know, you feel like a professional even though you're still shanking slice the ball. You know?
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why you bring a bag full of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you look at, you know, you're talking about speed having an opportunity to get the Grand Slam
yeah.
at an early age, but, you know, there's so many different up-and-comers in golf.
Yeah.
And I think the world of golf still owes Tiger Woods a debt because he created this sport to be what it was and the notoriety, even though he's waned since he's left the game.
Yeah.
But he is still synonymous with golf, Charlton.
I agree.
And people want to hear his name and see his face. We all wish him the best. And like you said, I don't see why he has to go to rehab. You know, you make a mistake, you make a mistake in society.
Yeah, that affects the whole country. Yeah.
They all want a pound of flesh every time they hear Tiger Woods' name. Well, he's got to pay.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't. You know, he had gone to rehab after he had gotten arrested, Charles.
Yeah, I mean,
so how many times do you have to go to rehab to say that you're okay?
That's a good point, Big C. Viagra's advertised, Cialis is advertised. So many things are advertised that people abuse, right? And they say, well, Tiger didn't need it, but he was abusing. You can read between the lines if you want to with that.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
When you have to go to the doctor because they have this statement, if you have something that lasts for more than 4 hours,
yeah.
you need to contact your doctor. You have to go to rehab.
Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bondini Brown. He was Ollie's right-handed man. He had a saying, rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Jonathan, I'm not looking forward to rumbling with that 4-hour Viagra statement, but I think having my little black box in the house and being able to hijack a few games, I'm going to be fun tonight. You know, I got a 12-pack over here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to get hydrated. You know, so I'm going to keep my bathroom door open because I don't want anything stopping me from getting in and out of there. And I'm going to have a great time.
That's so funny, Big C. I'm going to take your advice on that 4-hour. I'm going to make sure I'm going to read the bottle next time before I drink that. However you ingest it. And speaking of ingesting, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m., follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say there's never any excuse for domestic violence. If you know anyone in trouble, just call 911. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports program, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.